There was once an old frog who had lived his whole life in a well and was visited by a frog from the sea. And he was very curious about this thing called sea. And so he asked his visitor to give him an idea about the size of the sea. And so he asked his visitor, he says, well, from where you come, the sea, about how big is it? About maybe a quarter the size of my whale? And the visiting frog said, no, much bigger than that. And the old frog thought, he said, well, maybe about half the size of my whale? The visiting frog from the sea said, no, you're not even anywhere close to guessing, understanding the place from which I've come. And the old frog rubbed his chin and said, you mean to tell me that it's at least 3/4 the size of this whale? And the sea frog said, no, I've been telling you, you cannot even conceive of the size of the sea from which I've come. Finally, full of incredulousness, the old frog said, are you trying to tell me that the sea is as big as this whole whale? And the sea frog said, come with me and let me show you. There is no other way to explain it. Its size. There is nothing for you to compare it to. And so he took the old frog back with him to the sea. And when the old frog saw the sea in its vastness, it was so shocking and such a shattering experience that his head simply exploded into pieces. Something like that is the case when we come out of the narrow confines of our own understanding of the path. And here, a description of the path given by the gurus and mystics who come from the place that we all wish to go to. Something similar to that happens. Our heads explode because our minds are full of so many misunderstandings as it relates to the teachings. And so after holding out for a year, Sadarji finally was able to put together, I guess, an evening, and hopefully a very informal evening, where we will have an opportunity to discuss the larger dimensions of the teachings. And I thought that it was something that has been long overdue, quite frankly, because I too, like Sadarji, have longed to talk about this particular subject that we will be discussing tonight. We've talked in the past on so many other occasions so much about the teachings. Bilal has filmed up God knows how much of this stuff where we talk so much about the teachings and we're going through all of the nooks and crannies and subtleties and details and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I have always been concerned from the very beginning that there could be a misunderstanding by those who have attended these satsang. The misunderstanding being that the feeling that to simply understand the teachings would be something useful in terms of making some spiritual progress. In fact, there has always been those of us who confuse the teachings with the role and function of the guru. And as a result, we're not able to make any progress in the And so tonight I wanted to, for the record, set it straight. And we're going to be talking about Guru Bhakti Yoga. And we're going to be talking about the role of the Guru in this whole business about spiritual progress. It is a touchy subject for those of us in the West because we have become very addicted to our egos. We become very addicted to our so-called autonomy. And the very ideal of having a guru, the very ideal of submitting to a guru rubs us all in the wrong places. And what is more unfortunate is that the wave of gurus that invaded this country in the early 60s, late 50s, have left such a bad taste in the public's mouth. We all know of so many horror stories about those who were referring to themselves as gurus and all of the exploitation and damage that they did to those people who came to them for instruction. And so we have to take that into consideration and understand that the notion of guru in the West here in itself is problematic. Hence, the discussion we'll have today on Guru Bhakti Yoga will probably take us all a little getting used to. I can remember when I was going through a lot of my own periods of doubts and frustration. And I can remember writing a letter to Maharaji expressing all of these doubts and these frustrations, even wondering what is the role of this guru? Because you have to understand that Maharaji, it was in India, I'm in Londale, separated by some 8,000 plus miles. And of course we had satsang and we had all of the books. The books was full of the teachings, you see. I could read them and study them and listen to the tapes of satsangs and so forth and so on. And so slowly over the years, I started feeling less and less a need for the master. And simply more and more of a need for books and tapes and things of that nature. The feeling was growing up in me that, well, you know, I got initiation. I know the methodology. I got plenty of books. There is a satsang that occurs every week. What do I really need with this book? Really? And so I had all of these questions running through my mind. And so I wrote to the master, looking for some justification for his position, so to speak. For what do we need a guru for? What do you do? I have to do all of the meditation. I have to study all of the books myself, so forth, so on. What is your role? What do you do? And Maharaji wrote me back a letter, a long letter. And in that letter, he shared with me some insights into the path that literally revolutionized my whole understanding of spirituality and the teachings. In fact, at one part in the letter, he was mentioning to me that as I mature more on the path, that I, in fact, would understand the role of the guru. He went on to point out, there's so many Buddhas, and so many Jesuses, and so many gurus from time immemorial has pointed out. The fact that, as Buddha says, of all of the Buddhas who have attained enlightenment since time immemorial, not one single Buddha attained enlightenment without a master. And Buddha says, and all of the Buddhas and all of the aeons that are yet to come will not attain any spiritual without the Guru. Maharaji in his letter said to me, he said that without the Guru, one cannot move 1 inch at all. And he promised me that I would one day understand the purport behind that statement. And so it's really ironic, Sadhguru, that you have hounded and pursued me. And so since Maharaji is no longer on a plane where you can see him, then I suppose it would only be befitting for me to relate to you what the Master relayed to me. After all, this has been his overriding concern. He's not much interested in anything else after that. So I told him we would have our discussion here so that we would not burden anyone else with having to go through this subject, particularly if they're not interested in it. Buddha said another very prophetic thing. He said that devotion and devotion alone is the only means toward attaining enlightenment. Devotion and devotion alone is the only means for attaining absolute enlightenment. There is no. So hence we will have to talk something about devotion. What is really devotion? As we discuss this subject, good Bhakti Yoga. In the course of our discussion, we will be exploring what is the nature of a guru. What is a guru? And why has all of the traditions, Sufi, in Africa, you name it, placed so much emphasis on the role of the gurus? And finally, what is a disciple? And what is the nature of the alchemy that goes on between the disciple and the guru? And what is the role that devotion plays? So we will be looking at all of these things and anything else that you feel moved to have me address. So let us relax. You can eat and do whatever you want. You can walk, you can talk. This is a very formal gathering. Now, I suppose that we have to have, first of all, a better understanding of what we mean by devotion. Achana, did you bring some shibashins, some shabats, things of that nature? You should get them ready just in case, right? Find something. What is devotion? Have you ever thought about it? We all talk about devotion. Devotion to this, devotion to that. And of course, we also talk about devotion to the Master. Devotion to the Guru. What we call Guru Bhakti. But we never pause to try to figure out what really constitutes devotion. So let's begin with a working definition of devotion from a spiritual perspective. All right? The spiritual definition of devotion is the unbroken and uninterrupted receptivity to the truth. An unbroken, uninterrupted receptivity to the truth. It is being open to the truth. It's been in a maximum state of receptivity to the truth. This is what is meant by devotion. We mustn't confuse devotion with mere adulation. The Guru is not in need of your adoration or any kind of emotional or any kind of sloppy sentimentality. We confuse these kind of things with devotion. Devotion is no more than this intense, unbroken, and uninterrupted receptivity to the truth. So bear that in mind, because when we use the word devotion for the rest of the duration of this little talk tonight, you will have a clear understanding of what it is that I mean by devotion. So let's begin at the beginning. who is or what is the guru? Because only by understanding what a guru is can you really, for the first time, understand the path. You cannot understand spirituality if you do not understand the guru. As I said before, one of the aims and objectives is to lay to rest any misconceived notions that might have resulted from our prior satsanga regarding your possibilities of making spiritual progress simply on the strength of your studying and listening to these tapes and reading these books. And like Maharaji pointed out, I have to remind you that you will not move an inch on it. You will make absolutely no progress whatsoever. I mean, not an inch. And that has to be clearly understood because we get carried away with these talks. We get very confused about these talks. One of the things that I have constantly discussed with Bilal, I said, Bilal, look, one of the things must not happen with the House of Ra. That there must be no impression given that by simply merely attending these meetings and listening to these talks, that any spiritual progress can be made. This must stop. This mustn't happen. This is actually a misrepresentation of spiritual teachings. You see, the courage must be there to state the plain, solid truth. Without a guru, you are going nowhere at all. But as said before, we're so addicted to our egos that it makes us very hesitant to enter into this relationship. What is the guru? You see? First, perhaps, Sadharaji, you should read to us some of the remarks that you will find in relationship to and about the gurus as they come to us through various traditions. He simply will be sharing with us some of the Radha Swami tradition. But please bear in mind that these things that Swamiji Maharaji is saying here has been said by many, many people before Swamiji Maharaj and after Acharya Sadharaji.
But Swamiji Maharaj said, none could attain Bhakti without the help of the Guru of the time. And none could end the cycle without Bhakti.
Nobody can enter Sakmok. Sakmok means the state of enlightenment. This is the terminology in Radha Swami Bhakti for depicting that state of mind, that state of being that is equivalent to enlightenment.
Brother said, this precept is meant for those jivas in whose heart this spark of love and yearning has been kindled.
The fact is saying that these teachings about the role of the guru, what we're calling Guru Bhakti Yoga, is intended only for a rare kind of jiva, rare kind of soul, rare kind of seeker, in whose heart there is already a spark of love.
People tied to the world and to its pleasures and temptations need not give up their old beliefs and prejudices, as these beliefs constitute their support and mainstay.
He is saying that those of us who are still addicted to samsara, still addicted to this world, still addicted to anger, still addicted to lust, still addicted to greed, still addicted to our possession, still addicted to our egos and our own knowledge, need not follow this path of Guru Bhakti. After all, he said that these things that we have become addicted to is the support of our world. That is your Guru.
And he continues on, he said, my teachings are not meant for such persons, but they are the victims of worldly desires.
Swamiji Maharaji ended the Bhashan by reminding us that the teachings, these highest teachings, the teachings of Guru Bhakti Yoga, is not even meant for these guys in the first place. It was once said by one of the great gurus, one of the great Buddhas, that how do I put it? The probability chances of coming in contact, being one of those rare souls, is so small. He says that if you would imagine a ocean as vast as this universe, at the bottom of which there is a little turtle, and now imagine that floating on the top of this vast sea is a ring. The probability, the chances, the likelihood, he says, of one being such a soul fit for this path is the same as that of a turtle emerging from the bottom of this vast ocean to the surface and going right through there. Very rare, you see, is that individual. And so I just said that it is for those souls that his teachings are meant for. So we've been saying and talking so far about gurus and masters and the Buddhas for over 10 or 15 minutes here, but we still have not spoken directly to the initial question. What is the phenomenon of calling? Now, to understand this, you have to understand a few things first. You see, in all of us, with no exception, there lies dormant at the core of our being our own inner true teacher. This true teacher, this inner teacher, the Satguru, as the Hindu mystics call it, has been, since the time of your coming into being and falling into the illusions of samsara, has been trying to retrieve us. That inner teacher, that Satguru, that manifestation of that which is divine in you, right, have been reaching out, trying to rescue us from our own plight. It has never stopped. It has never rested. Its problem, of course, is working through the ignorance and the samoba, the emotional confusion that obscures our minds. Hence it cannot reach us. But it's still very active, creating all kinds of situations in your life, in many millions of lives, trying to somehow or another enable you to realize who you are. Your own true Buddha nature, your own true state of divinity, you see? So this inner teacher, this Satguru, you see, is not passive. It is active. And it has been trying in every conceivable manner to bring us back into our own state of enlightenment, to enable us to experience our own Buddha nature, you see. And perhaps after millions and millions of lives, millions of lives of tapas and austerities and prayers and effort on our behalf, after undergoing all kinds of situations and circumstances, in a lifetime when our karma has become purified enough, when the karma is good enough, something miraculous actually occurs in that life. And that miracle is that this inner true teacher that resides at the core of our being, that we call the Satguru, manifests outside in the form of a human being. And what is even more miraculous is that you encounter it. that I'm in London and my Sadguru was in India. And somehow we miraculously met. So you have to understand that the outer teacher, the outer guru, is nothing more than a manifestation in the embodiment of your own inner teacher who has been trying to reach you for eons, but could not cut through the obscurations of your ignorance and your emotional confusion. That has figured out, achieved the ultimate skill, which is to have manifest itself in another human being. And that special kind of human being that has become egoless and therefore can function like a mirror. You see? A human being in which you can get a glimpse of your own divinity. It is absolute. Imagine your Buddha nature, your true divine nature, being much like your face. And your face is with you from the very beginning, but you never have seen it. You don't know what you look like. The guru is that phenomena that is like a mirror that suddenly comes before you, and in it you see your own divinity. Hence the attraction, hence the feeling. What was it in you that created the attraction? The attraction was created because the guru is a reflection of your own higher self. It is the voice and representative of your inner self. Hence, the necessity for coming in contact with the outer master. This has to be deeply understood, because when you are doing devotion to the Guru, when you are maximizing your receptivity to the truth and the teachings coming through that Guru, in effect what you're really doing is opening up to your own self, your own higher self, that otherwise cannot reach you through the layers of ignorance, emotional confusion that we have fallen. And this has to be deeply, deeply understood. Why? Because unless you recognize the Guru as the embodiment in the manifestation of your own inner true teacher, the Sadguru, you will not follow the teachings. You will take the teachings very lightly. If you see the Guru as just another regular human being, then you will respond and to the teacher in the teachings. Is very likely. Hence the old master said that therefore our task as disciples is that we have got to be able to cultivate our devotion to the level where at least we can see the Guru as a representation of our own inner teacher, as a Buddha. Because only by seeing the Guru as a Buddha will the teachings have weight. Will you be very faithful to the teaching, where you will put forth much energy to follow the teaching, where your fidelity will be very much intact, you see. As long as the teacher appears to be just an ordinary human being, then your following of the teacher will be just like any other ordinary human being. You will pick, you will choose. It will not have any weight, you see. In addition to the Sadguru being the reflection of your own inner true teacher, the embodiment of your own Buddha nature, your own wisdom, because it is your own wisdom that you hear coming from the Guru. The Guru simply reflects your own wisdom, your own deep knowledge, your own deep understanding. It is your own knowledge. The attraction is there because you recognize your own truth. Did not each and every one of us have that experience when we encountered the teaching? It was almost as if we were writing the book. Strange. It was as if somebody was penning our own philosophies. There was a great rapport and affinity. The reason for that is because they are your teachings. They are the teaching, the understanding, the wisdom that is embedded in us at the deepest level of our being in the form of our own inner teaching, our own psyche. But the master, on the outside master, is much more than just the manifestation and reflection of your own inner psyche. The outer master is also the channel through which the blessings of all of the Buddhas and masters from time immemorial reaches out and becomes available. It is an extraordinary encounter. An extraordinary encounter. And unless you understand this, then you will go on relating to the Guru and to the teachings very lightly. You may do, you may not follow. It depends on your wills. There's no weight in it. There's no weight. It's almost like on your job, you know who your boss is. And when your boss tells you to do something, you do it. Because you know with this boss lies the power. Now some coworker tell you to do something and you may do it, you may not do it. It's not important. He's just a coworker. How important is what they tell me to do? But when the boss is the boss, you know that is the boss. And so the instructions carry much more weight. It is sort of like that. When the outer guru is seen simply as an ordinary human being, then that ordinary guru teachings impact them in a very ordinary way. There's no way. So the masters have always instructed the disciple. Our first task then is to cultivate this devotion, to maximize our receptivity and understanding of who the Guru is. And let that understanding go on elevating and deepening our relationship to the Guru. We must respect the Guru like a Buddha. And until you can do that, you will not move 1 inch on the path because you will not have enough devotion to do anything. Even now, we don't do anything. We don't do our meditations, we don't follow the teachings because we don't have the requisite level of devotion. If you want to know what is the real source of the problems we are experiencing in our sadhanas, the source of all our difficulties lies in the absence of devotion. You don't, and I don't have the requisite levels of devotion. Hence, we cannot apply ourselves to the Abhyasa. Only by understanding who this outward Guru is and that outward Guru's relationship to something deep within can we bring to sadhana the requisite respect and fidelity required to move on this path. So this is the first thing that has to be clearly understood. And remember, if you have any questions, you jump in because this is not a formal satsang. This is very informal. And I want to give you every opportunity to fully understand this Guru Bhakti. I don't want you to simply waste your time thinking that you can come to satsangs and listen to some nice conversation on philosophy and a lot of other exotic stuff and derive any conclusions from it. You won't go nowhere.
Well, I know I got here late now. I don't know if you covered this already, but I thought you had to get to a certain level in your meditation to really know who it is.
Yes, that's true. But you see, you cannot get to that level from
Without
zero.
devotion. Right.
Devotion is what takes you to that level.
Okay.
You see, we have a very wrong understanding. Devotion is the whole basis of the path. It is out of devotion that the whole notion of inner progress is with. Without devotion, you will never get there. Because how would you get there? You will lack the commitment. You will lack the requisite sincerity to practice at that level. So no, devotion comes first. Realizations come second. This is how it always is. So we begin now to see the Guru in a very, very, very different light. Now, how do we practice Guru Bhakti? Before we talk about that, you have some more bhashans you want to share?
Well, Swamiji was saying basically what you were saying. Swamiji said, I know niggas Satna or Nami. He said, I should do all of them with hold up hands, but none equal the status of Satguru.
What Swamiji Maharaji is saying is that God, you see, you don't know. All of the other higher administrators of the universe, you really don't know. You've not met Jesus. Maharaji, in the letter that I wrote to him concerning my doubts, my own frustrations, in the letter he said, Leonard, he says, you see, you could not write and ask Jesus anything. That's the difference between you and Jesus. The outer guru is your direct contact with your inner circle. Jesus you can't meet. Because Jesus, if you're going to meet him at all, you will meet through the channel of the Guru. The Guru is the vehicle through which all of the Buddhas reach. Whatever Jesus has to give us, they will give us through the Guru. Whatever God has to give you, he will also give that to you. You see? Whatever Buddha has to give you, he will give through the Guru. In fact, every enlightened being since time immemorial is sending their blessings to you and to you. Therefore, Swamiji Maharaji said that I bow and I touch the Guru feet because had I not came in contact with the Guru, see, how would I know anything about Allah? One of the things we begin to discover at some point in our journey is that you would never have realized these truths on your own. Please remember. Never, ever, ever. You would have never had this level of understanding on your own. And you have to really understand that. You would not have gotten this. None of us would. You would have been far more ignorant, far more wild, far more brutal, far more addicted to samsara. Your knowledge would have been far more mystical. You would never have understood these things had you not come in contact with the Guru. If the Guru had not set into motion those activities, it was the Guru that gave the knowledge that became the body of the writings of Julian Johnson. It was some Guru that gave the knowledge that became the body of the writings of the Quran, God's. There's no way. There was some Guru that even gave him the interpretation that enabled us to have insights. We have to clearly understand that. So Swamiji Maharaji is reminding us again and again that had we not came in contact with our own, the outer manifestation of our Satguru, there's no way we would have had even this little understanding. Your outer Satguru, you see, is the turning point. Yes, sir.
You know, when you speak of devotion, you know, I was thinking that I know that devotionals that I'm trying to grow in, for lack of better words, to grow in, that it comes in spurts, and that it's a continuation of this inner battle, the struggle, you know. You feel these truths. You can really feel these truths. However, when it comes down to really being devoted towards those truths, there's an obstacle.
Yes.
And you in and out, in and out.
Yes. in the beginning stages that throughout, the devotion is never natural, nor spontaneous. Hence the need to cultivate devotion. It is a skill that the disciple has to know. See? Because we are addicted to our egos. We don't really see the outer guru as a manifestation of our inner guru. We really don't. Hence the struggle. Hence the struggle. Yes, I know what Maharaji says. Yes, clear. I understand it intellectually. Yes. But now, to follow it, that's a different matter. Because my ego knows more about my needs and what's best for me than the actual physical representative of my inner circle. And what is your ego? Your ego is nothing but the condensation of your ignorance and your emotional confusion. That's all ego is. Ego has no knowledge whatsoever. And the proof of it is that, look at it, it goes on making mistakes. You go on following it, and it only turns out that it led you down a road that was a resulted in some mistake, something. But we think that our egos is our cycle. And we continue to follow. And the inner Sadguru has been struggling for millions of lives trying to rescue us from this misidentification of who the teacher is, who the real guru is, what is that real source in us of wisdom that may guide us, you see, flawlessly through our lives, you see, rescuing us. And finally, somehow, miraculously, almost like magic, after millions of lives, this inner Sadguru of ours was able to find a human being who had attained themselves a state of egolessness and maneuver a way in which we encountered this being. And in that egolessness, that mirror-like egolessness, for the first time we're able to get a glimpse of this inner teacher. For the first time we're able to really start listening to a voice of wisdom that is much deeper than that of the ego, you see. So Satra, again, the problem is, again, there because of the lack of devotion. So the antidote for no devotion is devotion in every instance.
Well, Swamiji has something to say on that too. He said, whenever a disciple, he said, whatever a disciple does in obedience to Guru will be merit in Bhakti. He said that you should therefore first search for a Guru who may tell you of Shabbat and single him out. He said that there is none equal to such a Guru. What else remains to be performed after one has come in contact with him? He said, hence I am convinced that one should serve none but Guru.
You have to understand, when Swamiji Maharaji and all masters are talking about serving the Guru, you have to understand that the Guru they're talking about is your own inner Sadguru that is manifest. Don't become confused here. This is not worshiping some pie in the sky deity. This is your own wisdom manifested and embodied. For the first time, you can hear the voice of your own wisdom. You see. So you have to understand that the Guru is you. There's a very intimate relationship between the disciple and man. And it is closing down this gap, because if you are not able to feel the depth of the relationship, that's why all masters have said that the disciple and the Guru is not separate. They can never be separate, because they're one and the same. You see, the outer Guru is you.
Now, how long did it
The
take?
real you.
How long did it take you to figure that out?
I didn't figure it out. The Guru had to tell me.
Right, because like when you first came to the path, I know it was said to you
Yes,
that
over and over again.
you were worshiping a man.
Yes, of course. Of course, and that's what I said at the top of our discussion, that the devotion to a guru in Western culture is very, very problematic. Because in this culture we have been conditioned to really follow only our ego. Our ego has been called our real guru. It is the thing that you choose to do, right? And nothing else. So we feel that by following something other than our ego, you see, is an abdication of our own autonomy. So we are very reserved about that. We have a lot of problems with that, you see. So as those first waves of teachers from India and other cultures came into the country, you know, it caused such a strong backlash. You know what I mean? When Swami Vivekananda came in 1893, you know, some was able to embrace, but the vast majority was very cautious about this Swami Vivekananda because he was challenging the role of your ego in the actual running of your life, the actual decision-making process. And the reaction is understandable, simply because in our culture we do not understand what a guru is. We still think a guru is some other human being, some different personality, and etc. and etc. We think that the guru is an ego, and that is the hardest thing. The guru is not an ego. The guru is egoless. That's what makes the person fit to reflect you, because there's none of him or her there. Their ego is gone. Nothing. It's just clear. And when you encounter them, you get a glimpse of yourself, your higher self. The wisdom you hear coming from the mouth of the guru is not the guru wisdom. There is no ego in there. They are empty. They are hollow. They are a vessel. They are a channel. You see? And our inner Sadguru has searched millions of lives in all kinds of relationships for this kind of egoless being through which it can function, through which it can reach you. Because it knows it can only reach you through another human being.
It's almost like Maharaji, whenever you ask him a question, he almost turns it back on you. And that was a style he seemed to have.
Yes.
And that's like mirroring then, because it's got to come from you.
Yes. Reflecting you. You see. And the answers that the master gives are always the answers that your Sadguru inside is giving. But you can't hear. Even when your Sadguru tries to talk to you in the form of intuition, your ego doesn't let you hear. Now your Sadguru has been trying to reach you through your intuition for millions of births. For millions of births. But it can't reach you. You can't follow your intuition. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know what it is. Right?
Absolutely.
And it sets up a conflict with your ego very often.
Yeah. Unless you operate out of intuition, if that's your dominant style, you
if
go
that's your,
with it.
then you can feel it a little better. But even then,
You
as
don't
long
know
as
where it
ego
come
is
from.
mixed, yes, there's problems.
Right.
When the inner Sadguru is able to work through an egoless human being that you are able to encounter, develop a relationship with, now they can wrestle with that ego. You see? They can wrestle with that ego. And that is the miracle. It is a miracle. So these are the things that we have to begin to understand. So the issue becomes, how do we therefore cultivate devotion? That is the real issue. You see? This process of cultivating devotion is the beginning stages of Guru Bhakti Yoga. So I think now we should begin to talk about some of the sadhana that is involved in the practice of Guru Bhakti Yoga. Would you like to do that? Now, there are fundamentally 4 distinct stages of Guru Bhakti Yoga. Don't have a blackboard, so you will have to bear with me. The first stage of doing Guru Bhakti Yoga consists of making yourself receptive to the blessings and invoking the blessings of your Sadguru. one of the things you see we all have to understand that we are addicted to some sodomy. Some sodomy in the world and all of this activity and the things in it. We are addicted to this stuff. We are addicted to anger. We are addicted to our lusts. We are addicted to greed. We are addicted to the things we possess. And for sure, we are addicted to our ignorance. Are we not? And like in any addiction, the first steps in recovery is one is to come out of denial and stop lying to ourselves about the scope and depth of our addiction. Now we're addicted, and we're deeply addicted, as much as any drug addict or alcoholic. And if we could come out of denial, and that is the function of satsang, is to break down that wall of denial, to go on bamming it until we're able to break it down. And once we are able to emerge out of that denial, then the next thing we have to do, we have to ask for help. Is that right? Satra is an addiction counselor. These are the two most important steps. We have to ask for help. So in the first stages then of Guru Bhakti Yoga, after we have come through the denial, you see, after we have understood that you're going to need the infallible guidance of your own inner teacher, your highest wisdom. You need that. You need accessibility to your own divinity in order to live in it. You can't do it at the level of your ego. You have already tried it for millions of lives, and you will go on. If you could come out of that denial, then Guru Bhakti now is available, because now you can begin the process of seeking help. So the first stage then in the practice of Guru Bhakti Yoga is to simply sit quiet. Sit very quiet. Closing the eyes. One begins to visualize one's Guru in the space in front of you. And as you begin to visualize the Guru, you begin to invoke the Guru. You begin to invoke the Guru for his or her blessings, their help. You're asking the Guru to help purify and to cleanse all of the negative thoughts and emotions in your mind, which is generating mountains and mountains of negative karma, causing unbearable suffering. You're asking for the blessings, you see, of wisdom from this Guru of yours, and the blessings of all the other Gurus since time immemorial. You see, you're asking every enlightened being that has ever existed for them to send you their wisdom, their compassion, their joy, right? And you are visualizing all of this transpiring through your outer Guru. The outer Guru is a transmitter through which all of these blessings flow to. And you ask them for help. You ask them, the Guru, please help me. Take care of me. You understand? Rescue me from all of the errors and the mistakes that is arising out of my ignorance. Right? And the results of those mistakes in the form of dukkha. You see? You're visualizing your Guru, as you say. Right? You are invoking the blessings of the Guru. And remember, this Guru is the manifestation of your own inner teacher. Please, I have to remind you over and over again, lest you start feeling some distance from the Guru. The Guru The outer guru is nothing more than the manifestation of your own inner guru. You see? That has been trying to reach you in every possible way since the first time. You see? Who have left no stone unturned. Who has moved you through millions of lives and millions of relationships and millions of situations, skillfully designing each one of them to somehow connect you. You see? And after these millions of lives, that inner higher self of yours has miraculously found a way to reach you. Right? And you have recognized it. And you are open up and you're saying to that divine part of yourself, take care. Get me out of this mess. Liberate from this wheel of 84, this wheel of samsara that's coming and going and something that I'm in. Cleanse this mind. You know, it's just full of negative things, all kinds of negative things. Purify these emotions of mine. I'm just full of anger, full of grief. I'm just full of all of these negative emotions. And I am forced to act on them, creating nothing but negative karma that has generated an unbearable amount of suffering. See? Help me get out of this. I can't get out of this. You see? On my own, I can't get out of this. And so you are invoking the Buddha. And this is the first phase of the practice of Bhagwan. You are invoking the blessings of the Guru and all of the Gurus since time immemorial. Remember, you are asking the same thing of Buddha, of Mahavir, of Jesus, see, of Kabir, of Swamiji Maharaj, you know, of all of the Gurus. See. And they are all sending their wisdom through the Master. It's interesting that it's with the Master that we learn about all of these people. It's through the Master that we understand the Buddha. The Master make the Buddha teachings clear to us, make Jesus teachings clear to us. Otherwise, we will not even understand. And that is because the Master is the channel through which all of the teachings are flowing. So we are invoking them. Not only our own Satguru, but the wisdom that is flowing from all of the Gurus since time first. And once now we have invoked the Gurus as deeply and as heartfelt as possible and sincere. You know? It has to be sincere. It can't be bullshit. It can't be formula. You know what I mean? It's not a canned kind of invocation, right? It is from your heart, you see? Really relevant to your life, you see? Then we begin to try to open ourselves up. We start deepening the devotion. Now we go to the next one. We start becoming more receptive. We become receptive enough to ask, you see. That's the first stage. If you don't even have enough receptivity to the blessings of the Gurus to even ask, how would you get any blessings? Now you don't ask nobody to help you. Your little ego figures that it can do everything. My ego says I can liberate myself. Now listen to the foolishness of this. Your ego can liberate you. Your ego is the thing that is imprisoning you. But you figure, I'll follow my ego and I'll become liberated. Now this is nuts. This is madness. You see. So the first phase of development and the cultivation of devotion is to be able to free yourself enough from the clutches of your ego to even ask. I acknowledge defeat. I surrender. This mind is thoroughly woven out. You see. And the next phase then is that you begin to deepen and increase this devotion. The next part of the practice of Guru Bhakti involves the merging of your mind into the mind of the Guru. And this is done through December intervention. When we are doing Simran, you have to understand that what you are doing is that they're the Guru. And remember, if you can't visualize the Guru, then just feel the presence of the Guru. That is enough. When you're visualizing the Guru, feel their presence. Feel the presence, with you. More about that later. It's very important. And the second phase now, we are beginning to merge our minds into the wisdom mind of the Guru. Because the reason that we're suffering so much is because we're disconnected from our own wisdom mind. You can't get into your wisdom mind. You can't access it. Hence the ignorance. You really don't know what to do with your life. You really don't know. This ignorance and this emotional confusion, you see, keeps you generating negative karma. It keeps you suffering. But there is a wisdom nature. You too have a Buddha nature. You have a wisdom nature. You have a divine nature, a divine mind. And you just can't connect with it. So in the next phase, you are trying to open up your mind so that the wisdom mind of the Guru can merge into it. And so when we do our Samura, when we were repeating the 5 holy names, all that we're doing is synchronizing our minds with the minds of the Guru. We're pushing all of the thoughts out of the mind so that it can be filled with the wisdom of the Guru. And when you manage to push all of the thoughts out of your mind, all of the thoughts of samsara, because that's what's filling your mind, is nothing but thoughts of samsara. Alright? Is that right? And when we're able to push those thoughts out of our mind, to ignore those thoughts, instead let our minds now be filled with the wisdom of the Guru. And not only with the wisdom of the Guru, but with the wisdom of all Gurus such time. The mind is being opened up to, and room is being made for the wisdom of the Buddha, of Mahavir, of Kabir, of Jesus, of Muhammad, of Fatah, you see, of so many thousands of mystics and enlightened beings. You're making room in the mind for their wisdom to flow. You're merging with the wisdom mind, the Guru, and all of the other words. So you need to understand what's going on here. And as you move from your Simran, once you have been able to open up your mind and have it filled with the wisdom of the Gurus as opposed to the thoughts of samsara, instead of the thoughts of the world, you now move into the next step where now you fill your heart with the joy and the bliss of the Gurus. And that is done through the practice of bhajan, the Shabdas, the Radha's Institute. But the bhajan now fills your heart, see, with the sukha, with the joy, the compassion, the heart wisdom, as they say in the traditions, of all of the Gurus. And so now you see, we are deepening the blessings. We've asked for the blessings and we're pulling the blessings in. See, your Simran is actually pulling the blessings in. Pulling the blessings into yourself. We're pulling them into, filling yourself up with those blessings of the wisdom, mind, and the heart wisdom of the Guru, which is your own inner teaching inside Guru, manifest. Right? So I want you to understand this is a kind of regurgitation. It's a circular thing. All right? Don't create no distance between them. The Guru is your higher self. You have to really meditate on this to understand this. And you start filling up with that, right? You start filling up with that. And then you come to this third stage of hunger in the practice of Guru Bhakti. Are you able to follow me? And then the third part of the practice of Guru Bhakti, it's sort of like sex. You see, after you have sex, you should not disconnect. Someone has told you that? Probably. You see, that you should still remain, coupled. Because sex is a flow of energy. When man and woman have sex, they are actually transferring biopsychic energy to each other. So even after the ejaculation, or orgasm is over with, you should still remain coupled because there's more energy. There's another finer level of energy that now comes. It ain't over with. It's the same way. Once we have finished the symbol and the budget, you shouldn't jump up because as soon as you finish, you jump up and run like hell. You see? you pull out and you run. Right? No. Now in the third stage. Now you remain seated. And now you begin to feel the power and the compassion and the wisdom that has flowed into through the grace of the Master and all of the past Buddhas. And one way to do that is to visualize. You're seeing the Buddha right there in front of you as you sit, or you feel in the presence of the Buddha. You see? And you feel this compassion, this wisdom, and this power entering you in the form of light. Visualize orbs of white, brilliant light coming from the eye center, the Ajna chakra of the Guru right into your Ajna chakra. Visualize it. You feel that light traveling into your mind. That wisdom has come into your mind. Feel it cleansing it of all of the negative thoughts and harmful emotions, which generates the negative karma, causing you unbearable suffering. Feel it. See it coming directly into you from the Guru. And through the Guru, see all of this same wisdom coming from the minds of all of the Buddhas and enlightened beings that have existed since time immemorial. Imagine further, visualize further that from the throat chakra of the Guru, you see this ruby red light coming from his throat to your throat. See? Transmitting to you his wisdom speech. Cleansing your speech of all the harsh and harmful things that you say to others that generates the negative karma that will cause you unbearable suffering in this life and in the next. See this ruby red light as the process through which the Master is transferring to you compassionate speech. Matulata, good speech, as the ancestors call it. Ma'at-making speech, harmony-making speech. Speech that results in bringing people closer together rather than speech that results in separation, discord, conflict. And see that coming into your throat chakras, cleansing your speech of all harmfulness and negativity. Visualize finally a brilliant blue light coming from the directly into your heart, filling you with all of the joy, all of the compassion of a Buddha. And remember, by compassion, I'm not talking about sympathy. Sympathy is not to be confused with compassion. Compassion is a very different thing. Compassion is not only the recognition of the suffering of another sentient being, but a practical and determined effort to alleviate that suffering. And in the Buddhist tradition, they call such compassionate people Bodhisattvas. And their vow is that all of the merit of their sacrifices and meditation should be distributed to all other sentients. And that they forego their own enlightenment until every sentient being that has ever existed or will ever exist becomes enlightened. That is compassion. And see this compassion that these gurus have had for us flowing directly into ourselves. And feel yourself filling up with it. Feel this energy, power, this compassion, this wisdom filling your whole being. You have to practice until you can actually feel it. This is the third stage in the practice of movement. The fourth stage, final stage, is that after you have felt all of this power and compassion and wisdom flowing to you, now you dissolve the guru into nothing but light, and then you swallow it into your whole being. As you swallow the meat, as you eat the meat, you are eating and swallowing your own higher nature. You bring your whole higher nature into yourself in a very conscious way. What the Tibetan Buddhists call Rigpa. And you rest in this state of Rigpa. You just rest in it. And you rest in it. So these are the four preliminary stages of the practice of the Guru. Now once you leave, you see, and you begin to now carry this view with you. You've had a view of your Buddha nature. You've had a view of the wisdom nature. You've had a view and an experience of the wisdom. And now you carry this view with you into the world, into your community. And you keep it stabilized through meditation. And then you enter. So you have to understand that this Guru Bhakti then is not just some poetry. It's not just a few lines that you will read in the books. It is not sentimentality. It is not blind admiration. It is not man or woman worship. It is none of those things.
I have two questions. The first one, what is a cult?
A cult?
Occult.
Occult.
OCC.
Well, that word has so many different meanings. It can be used to refer to anything that is not orthodox standard, or legitimatized by our culture, not on ordinary route towards knowledge. Very often it means a unorthodox method for the acquisition of knowledge, some kind of supernatural.
Okay.
You see, something beyond the ordinary mind. And you have to remember that in some respect, even the teachings of these great gurus and masters have been referred to as the occult or the mysterium. Why? Because what enlightenment cannot be attained with the ordinary mind. You cannot have the experience of enlightenment through the ordinary mind. The path to enlightenment is through the heart, never through the mind.
So the mind is the dark side. The heart is the light side.
Yes. Now you can go into the mind and get all kinds of things, no doubt
Yeah,
about that.
right.
But you can't get it right. You get cities, you get the power of the hill, and so many other things, but you will not become enlightened. That path is directly through the heart, through devotion. That is why Maharaji and all the saints have said that devotion and only devotion will produce absolute enlightenment. Period. No other path. And that is a path through the heart. You know what I mean? Now, what was the second question?
Well, it kind of got answered in there.
Yes,
You know, I just recently started hearing about this heart wisdom
Heart
stuff.
wisdom.
That's fascinates me.
It's fantastic.
When you spoke of it, you use it in terms of the chakras,
Yes, in a
the
sense.
technique that you use.
But when I say heart chakra, they feel here, but actually, your question is always a little deep and more technical. But actually, the heart's chakra is on the other side. It's not this. It's on the right side.
Oh, okay. It's not
No.
the actual heart.
No.
Oh.
Heart means center. Or center of the being. It's a kind of a geometry. You know, like we have the center of a circle. Right? The heart is like that, the very center.
Oh. When it says center of your being, meaning from your head to your trunk.
Right, and so
Yeah.
so sometimes in the physical body, they'll say this is the heart chakra.
Okay.
But sometimes they even call this the heart chakra. It depends on what tradition. But just the word heart is just really cool.
But using it with wisdom
Yes,
because
heart wisdom, because it is wise interaction. Heart wisdom, compassion. You see? Heart wisdom is when you understand the logic of compassion. Compassion is the most logical way to react with other human beings. It's very logical. It makes nothing but good sense. It's wisdom. Prajna. And so, you have to be able to feel the suffering. We'll talk a little bit. Yes. We're here tonight for all questions. We're going to solve all business.
it seems like as soon as you get on the path, all this information just comes to you. Because I do a lot of reading. I'm constantly picking up books. And I guess at this point right now, I find myself being tugged in all different directions. Information that seems very truthful. Just recently, I picked up a book about psychic development. And they were talking about guides, spirit guides, and teachers. And then I picked up another book called Seed of the Soul. Fascinating book, really good book. And the author was talking about guides and how guides can help you in life. Angels, actual guides, and I think most of us know that angels are supposed to be all light. I guess what I want to ask you, do you believe in angels and guides of that type and stepping in to help us?
I've just said, you see, that what to speak of angels, I'm saying that all of the gods and enlightened from time immemorial reaches out to help us, with no exception. The problem is, you see, we're not receptive. The problem is the lack of our receptivity. And it is this lack of receptivity that is the antithesis of devotion. Devotion means the maximum degree of receptivity has been attained. And when that level of devotion has been attained, then all of these blessings will flow. And all of these blessings, the ultimate flow will be through the Guru. Because prior to the Guru, then you have to kind of pick up their influence intuitively. And your intuition is not that developed. The ego still is able to dominate, you see. So even when these disembodied beings full of goodwill and compassion reaches out for you, it cannot respond. The doubt will not allow you to. So channel of the group, all of it reach you. You see, directly. Their blessings are able to reach us directly. You see. So the guru becomes the embodiment of all of the angels, all of the Buddhas, all of the spiritual guides. You see. The thing we have to do, particularly here in the West, is to outgrow our shopping cart mentality. You see. We spend so much of our time shopping. Now, of course, the Masters teaches us that one should put forth the time and energy necessary to find their path. But once you have found that path, then you need to focus in on that path. If you go on skipping around, then you actually ultimately become just confused. If you go on focusing all of your energies on the acquisition of information, Maharaji said to me, he says that we all have to acquire enough information to become convicted about the path. But once you do that, right, now to go on accumulating information will actually become a great barrier. If that is your principal practice, the collection of information. The collection of information along with Guru Bhakti is a very different thing, right? But most of us are we just collect information and we don't have any Guru Bhakti there. And so that collection of information won't change. But yes, in answer to your question, are there non-physical entities, sentient beings who are reaching out, sending their blessings to us? Yes, and 1,000 times yes. The question is, are we sensitive to? Should we take a little break and then we'll come and eat up all of this food? Huh? For just a minute here, because they brought all this food out here, and I know some of you are just coming from work. And must have brought some appetite.
I'm not gonna speak on that.